Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker by profession, and my topic is something I call Take the Doughnut, which is an expression for me that means carpe diem, seize the opportunity, seize the day. From time to time, I issue myself a Take the Doughnut challenge. I think about something that I want to do it, something I want to go after in life, but maybe I'm starting to come up with reasons why I shouldn't do it. I'll issue myself a Take the Doughnut challenge and say, nope, got to go after this. This year, one of the things that I want to go after, one of my Take the Doughnut challenges, is to do a Halt and Catch Fire rewatch podcast here on YouTube. Here's the deal. I've watched a lot of TV in my life. I've seen a lot of shows that I liked. I have never seen a show that is more perfect to me. Perfect than Halt and Catch Fire. But there's not a single person on earth that I seem to be able to talk to about it. And I want that to change. I want to hear people's feedback. I want to be able to have discussion about this show. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to create it myself. I'm going to create my own forum to do that. And that's where these videos come in, because I'm going to go episode by episode to cover this show and get your feedback as well. Now, what is Halt and Catch Fire? It is a show that ran from 2014 to 2017 on AMC. It is a show ultimately about the technology advancements of the 1980s and 90s. It tracks four main characters, two men, two women, a visionary, a computer engineer, a coder, and a hardware expert. They're all very strong characters with incredible story arcs. Each one has significant character development as you go through. The relationships between them, the alliances, the problems, the challenges, the conflicts, they're constantly shifting. But ultimately, the four of them together are happening upon or discovering or thinking of so many of the major advancements that we're now able to look at and say, oh my gosh, that was insert name of technological advancement here. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that you recognize. If you lived in the 80s and 90s, or if you didn't, there's going to be music you recognize. There's going to be video games. There's going to be toys. There's going to be cultural points for you to think about from that era. And there's also really a distinct ability to follow the technology and the new inventions that were coming up during that time and feel like you're part of it because you're watching how it happened. So it's such a beautiful show. If you know technology really well, you can watch it on that level, and I'm sure it's great. If you don't, there is so much to enjoy in this show. Now, something I find really interesting and something that's been frustrating for me as a fan of the show is that when it originally aired, it didn't find its audience. I consider this show an absolute miracle because for whatever reason, AMC kept running it for 4 seasons. The creators somehow managed to create a completely perfect, cohesive story that seems like it always should have taken place over 40 episodes without actually knowing they were going to be picked up from one season to the next. The actors, they were all able to really pull off a story that feels like a complete narrative and really feels like every piece of it was as it was meant to be. The crew of this show did such an impeccable job. As we get towards season 4, I'm going to be pointing out a lot of camera work that I found was incredibly impressive. If you look up the ratings of this show on Rotten Tomatoes, you'll find, as of right now, the first season is coming in around, the mid 70% in terms of reviews. Last 3 seasons are all 90% or above. 4th season is actually 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's how amazing it is. And yet, every time I mention it to somebody and I want to talk about it, they say, oh, I've never heard of that show. I'll put it on my list. Well, it is time. It is time for all of us to watch it and talk about it together. Here's how my coverage is going to work. I am assuming that there are going to be people discovering this show for the first time. And I want you following along. I want this community to grow. So I'm going to make sure that every podcast that I do, as I cover episode by episode, I'm not going to go beyond that episode in what I say in the video. So it will be spoiler free up to each episode. However, if you are somebody who has seen the show before, feel free to put your spoilery thoughts, your questions, your comments into the YouTube comments. Just start it with spoiler, put a couple line breaks, and then say what your thought is. I would love for everybody to be able to actually have a conversation about this. I didn't want to make this a podcast that goes out on traditional podcast directories because I want you all to be able to see each other's thoughts and comments. I want discussion to be had because I know that if I'm having this experience or I can't talk about this show with people, some of you have probably had that as well. This is the time we get to change that and discover even more, get more takes on this show that we love. I'm going to drop a new episode every Monday, and my format will be, I'll do a scene by scene breakdown of that episode. I will talk about, list any music that was played during that episode. I'll pick a favorite quote from the episode. And then of course, I'll share some feedback if there's any relevant feedback or questions from all of you that I've received in the YouTube comments. That is the best way to reach me with that. So that is the plan for how to approach this. I can't wait to watch this show with all of you. And before we dig into it, I just want to say once more, a huge thank you to everybody who was part of making this show happen. To the creators, Christopher Cantwell, Christopher C. Rogers, to the main characters, the main actors in the show. You know, we've got Mackenzie Davis and Carrie Bechet, we've got Lee Pace and Scoot McNairy. You know, what an all-star cast. To a person, the performances are just gorgeous. I cannot wait to dig into this show with all of you and to learn more about Halt and Catch Fire. Come join me as we cover this incredible show, and I can't wait to start. Bye.